All right, so looking at the Al-Zn phase diagram, question 2 asks to manually sketch a plot of aluminum concentration in the HCP-A3 phase, which is this triangle over here, versus temperature for aluminum zinc at 75% zinc alloy. So we have the 75% mark right here, the vertical spot, which is 0.75 moles of zinc, which has 0.25 moles of aluminum with it. So what we're going to do is look at the regions where HCP-A3 exists along this line. So it goes from 300 to 550 here, 550 to 650, and above 650 is the liquid plus FCC-A1 phase, then the liquid phase. So the range of temperature we're going to use is 300 to the 650 because that's where it's present. And it's also present below 300. It's just that this line extends. So I'm just going to do the values for 300 to 650, but it would be the same starting at 0 as well. So for this, we'll first note the first temperature, which is at 300 Kelvin, and temperature is in Kelvin. So at 300 Kelvin, if you look at this 0.75 zinc mark, in order to look at the Al concentration of HCP-A3, we're gonna look at the zinc concentration and then subtract 1 minus zinc to get the aluminum. So to get the HCP-A3 concentration, you bring your attention to the right side because that's where HCP-A3 is. So at 300, look to the right, it's 1 mole of zinc and 0 moles of aluminum. So we're gonna write that down on our piece of paper for temperature, and then HCP-A3, we're gonna note the moles of zinc and the moles of aluminum. Also, 1 minus mole zinc equals mole of aluminum. So at 300 Kelvin, we have 1 mole of zinc, 0 moles of aluminum. So now we're going to look at the next progression of a horizontal line, which is here at 550. So at this point, when you look to the right to see the concentration of HCP-A3, when you drop down, the mole fraction of zinc is a little bit less than 1, still close to it, so I would just say it's about 0.98. So at 550 Kelvin, moles of zinc, 0.98, and then using this equation, you can get the moles of Al in your phase of HCP-A3. So you have 0.02 for that. All right, so let's look at the next horizontal line past 550. And in this region, up to this point, the temperature is 650. So we'll look at it from below 650 and above 650. Below 650, if you do your line to the right, where it intersects the HCP-A3, it's a little bit less than this value here. We said 0.98 for here. So for this line at 650, I would say it's about 0.97-ish, somewhere around that. So at 650 Kelvin, below it, 0.97 and 0.03. So now let's look above the 650 Kelvin mark, and we know that there's no HCP-A3 present, so we're just going to have that as 0 since looking to the right, you look at the fraction of liquid and the composition of liquid and the composition of FCC-A1 whenever you drop down in those regions. So since we've reached the capping point at 650, we'll have 0 as the value above 650 Kelvin. So the moles of zinc at that point doesn't really matter. All we know is there's no aluminum with the HCP-A3 phase. So 0 and 0 because it's not existent in that point. So now we're gonna take our information that we used based off of this diagram of the points from 300 to 650, and we'll be able to plot the graph. So we'll do our temperature axes, and we'll use the values here for moles of aluminum because we're trying to get the Al concentration. So the concentration is assuming that Al concentration plus Zn concentration equals 1. So using that ratio, we'll use 0 Al concentration, 0.01, 0.02, and 0.03. So using these values, at 300 Kelvin, we have 0 moles of aluminum. And then at 550 Kelvin, we have 0.2 moles of aluminum. So we'll drag that line over, get that point. Next one is for the limit coming from the left of 650 Kelvin is 0.03 moles of aluminum. So approaching 650, you have 0.03 from the left. So we'll connect all these points. And above 650 Kelvin, we don't even have an HCP-A3 phase, so there can't even be any concentration of aluminum. So that drops to 0 here. We just have a vertical line there. And then since no HCP-A3 is present in the future, just drag it along the 0. So that's how you get the aluminum concentration in the HCP-A3 phase at 75% zinc for the Al-Zn phase diagram.